Well. What a week. I put out a video I wanted just in one topic, and unfortunately, I've got to hit three topics now tonight. It's so big. It's so big. Some of the greatest academics from the United States have been involved with. This spans Texas, New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Chicago, goes on and on. There's a lot. There's a lot. And these are in the top five institutions in the world, these universities, and actually these living law professors. So tomorrow at noon, I'm invited, National Constitution Center, where not only Donald J. Trump and we watched Kamala Harris have their debates at that stage, that level of who's following the law and who isn't. That center's bringing me in with four of these academics, some of which I know very well. I'm very blessed to know them very well, and some at the end of their, I would say, career, and even getting close to the end of their lives, for a roundtable. And I'm there, and it's all in relation to not just the United States, but really USA looking out onto Canada, where Canada's going, what Canadians are conditioned to believe, what's being grifted out right now that I have to hit. And I'm watching people that follow me. So I had a good talk with my friend Carla tonight, okay? She's from Ontario. We've been going through a lot. And a group of us, actually, Ontarians, in that G7, B7 summit we went to last year. These particular Ontarians who joined me on that really had their worlds upset. Now, it's commonplace to me. A lot of Albertans over the last number of years have seen that live with me. And so it even bugs me more when people who've lived certain truths with me, like, you lived that. How could you get grifted? How could you make a video in relation to these topics when you saw firsthand the absolute authority of the government show you that everything you want to believe is fake? I'm going to hit three majors this week. These are massive, massive falsehoods, absolute lies that my poor fellow Canadians are going to get suckered, raped, pillaged, and plundered, and end up not only not getting the desired outcome, but are going to lose everything. I'm going to start with a couple of myth busts, and that's a real first one. It's in relation to Bill C-9. Lots of people publishing that, lots of religious groups. I'm going to tell you something. If you don't know this already, and if you're religious, I don't care what faith you follow. We all have our faiths. I have my own faith. I've chosen my path. I don't even go into that publicly because that's me, that's my beliefs, and I go with that. And I think a lot of people can ascertain where that is. Yes, Jesus is a big part of my life in my own way, under my own version of Christianity that suits me the best. And this you will find in the Bible Belt of America. Which brings me to the ultimate myth bust. Church and state. Folks, all Canadians, if you want church and then state, two separate things, but as much as you as the individual want to put into church is on you, and as much as you as the individual want to put into government and hold to government, you can. In America, that is absolute law, highest laws of America, that those two things are equally true, that it is church over here and state for you. Think of your two fists as an American, those are yours. Because you hold those in your hands. The love of God in your hand and your state in the other. It's beholden to you. That's America. That is institutional, foundational of everything that is America, day one till today, never dismembered, never redesigned, never amended, never changed. That is absolute. Now, Canada has some absolutes too. When it comes to God and this new C9, people going, oh, you're doing this, and oh, God, you can, and oh, look what they're doing, and all this evil. It has always been state, church, and you. You don't get your God. I don't care what faith you belong to. The truth entirely of Canada forever and always has been church under the state up here. For all intents and purposes, your government is God. Is God. It's a pyramid scheme. The higher up the level of government to the federal branch, Prime Minister is your God. I don't care what faith you subscribe to or what denomination you go to on the weekend or weekdays or whatever you do. You pick one and I'll tell you that church is under the state. That is absolute entirety of law of Canada. Always has been, always will be, no matter what politician tells you otherwise. Bill C9 and many others will always be there because the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. If you thought that meant your God, well, I'm sorry. If you're a Canadian and you're a subject in Canada, whether immigrated to get that status, that citizenship, or you were born here, that's how it is for you. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what class or hierarchy, you are giving that church up to the state. The Lord is entirely defined as your politicians. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away when it comes to your religious rights and freedoms, because church is not separate from state or conditional to what you value. It's dictated to you by your Lord, which is the government. That's it. It can be done provincially, can be done federally. Ultimate authority goes to the federal government. And in the pyramid, it rolls down. Which brings me to the next item on our list. You go through Bill C9, religious freedom, and new anti-religious laws that your government's imposing. They can and will and always do. Next item on our list is finance, is CAD, Canadian currency. Folks, we all know we have CAD. This is talking to all Canadians now. You have a currency called CAD. You have financial institutions, chartered banks, even private financial institutions, who all operate here in Canada under the laws of the Canadian government out of Section 91 of the Constitution forever and a day. Two acts, there's the Banking Act and the Finance Act, passed by Parliament of Canada with the Senate appointed by Prime Minister, and in conjunction with whatever the Prime Minister wants, and they're appointed Governor of the Central Bank. All chartered banks are underneath that, including Alberta's Treasury branch. They all operate under federal laws. Zero, I repeat, zero provincial laws. How do I prove that? Is there an Alberta currency? Is there a Quebec currency? No. You're in CAD, Canadian currency, because that's rolled out in those two acts. And all financial institutions outside of that come directly from the central bank, the Bank of Canada. Does any Alberta politician have any authority at the provincial level over any financial institutions or what the federal government can do with CAD, your accounts, your banking, or anything in this country, including their own? The answer is no. If you don't understand this, I don't know what to tell you. It's pretty much universal worldwide. Every central bank operates nearly the same way in those respects, even the United States. You don't see states of the Union saying, we're going to make our own financial laws. We're going to control the flow of currency and how banking institutions run in our state. No, they have a district banking system. Yeah. And it's all just like the other district models run through what? The U.S. Federal Reserve. It's not the state of the Union's reserve. And when state banks come up, what do they run on? U.S. currency. This is the same for all the provinces, like many places in the world. Nobody in any province of Canada, whether it's premier or anyone else, a legislative assembly member or any other appointment, can exact anything financially or protect you financially in any way, shape, or form. When a provincial politician says that they're going to make provincial laws or statements where they're going to give you freedoms that are not protected provincially, and they're not even defined provincially, and they're going to tell you, hey, we're going to make a Bill of Rights in the province that says we're not following any of the federal system. Well, provincial politicians who do that run into barriers. In the United States, they have separate powers. They have an executive branch, a legislative branch, and a judicial branch. They have state and federal powers, but just like the federal branches of government at the state level, they're all separated too, under their division of powers. In Canada, it's a pyramid scheme, and it starts with Prime Minister, Governor General, and I'm going to simplify this. Governor General breaks down into all the appointed lieutenant governors of all the provinces and territorial commissioners, who are lieutenant governors for the territories. They operate at whatever bequest the Governor General says. And to really hit this home, everybody, in this judicial branch that decides constitutionality and legality and administers enforcement by making judgment that the executive must uphold, remember, every single province has a superior court. USA, states have supreme courts. Well, in Canada, all of our superior courts are appointed by Prime Minister, Governor General, but Prime Minister selects them and Governor General appoints them. Governor General's appointed by Prime Minister and also empowers Prime Minister, so Prime Minister can fire Governor General anytime they want, or any of these positions. They're all beholden ultimately to Prime Minister through the powers of the Crown Governor General. And all lieutenant governors who will administer that power, because if they don't, they get removed. And who appoints them? Governor General. By whose advice? Prime Minister. Where do you see Premier and all that? Do you know that every single police officer whose job is to enact enforcement, unlike the United States, they do not serve and protect Canadian people or Albertans or Quebecois, even if it is an official provincial police, because they're trained with a criminal code. There's only one source for the criminal code, and it only comes from Governor General, out from all lieutenant governors, and it's federal. It's done by Parliament, not the provinces in Canada. All police officers follow that criminal code and whatever is put in it. That's it. And their job is to protect, starting at the top, their primary mandate, Prime Minister first, Governor General second, third, all your lieutenant governors. Now, I could get into thousands of positions at this point before we get to you, the people. Thousands. We're going to be building a platform to explain this, to showcase this for the first time worldwide that's never been shown. All the evil of the old world, what was Nazi Germany, what Adolf Hitler figured out, what he had done, which many dictators have done, especially in constitutional monarchies throughout the ages, but all off the Canadian design. And folks, when it comes to any idea that you're going to get a castle law, that you're going to be allowed to take a firearm and shoot somebody who legally enters your house in Canada under the age-old monopoly of force, absolute law enshrined in Canada and all provinces forever and a day. It's actually the oldest law Canada took from the old world, created in Canada in the 1600s. There is no such thing as castle law. When a premier tells you that they are going to usurp the judiciary, even though they're not listed constitutionally in any effect with the highest court of even their own province, meaning the Superior Court that overrides all local justices, will rule for the federal government and the federal laws. And every police officer and every military personnel in Canada is not sworn to the people or to protect the people. That's all baloney. They have another sworn oath, and it's to the highest politician all the way down. Premier's a lot down here. They're way down here in the province. And they are beholden to the same laws as the police. And if it comes for any cop to make a choice between premier or the highest prime minister, they will go with prime minister. That's their mandate. That is their entirety. This is also the same for every justice in Canada. Now, sometimes lower, not appointed justices, because prime minister doesn't care, because they know that the Superior Court can overrule all of that. All appeals go to the Superior Court, everything from any lower court. And you see it overturned all the time, especially when it doesn't suit the upper echelon. What Danielle Smith tells everybody, and what people are grifting out there today saying Danielle Smith's going to incorporate castle law, which is non-existent and has never existed in Canada for any subjects, zero, none whatsoever. There is castle law for the Crown elected and castle law for the Crown appointed, but not any of you. And you really don't have property rights either. Because again, what did I tell you about religion? What I'm going to tell you about property, because it's important to understand that church that's under state, if you ever want to look at the real history, you work the Lord's land. Yeah, you lease it. They call it private property, but they've created such a value on it, and you've got to pay these tremendous property taxes. Oh, and there's all these rules depending on how the Crown has zoned your property. Oh, you can't build a fence. Oh, you can't do that. You can't do this, can't do that. And it goes on and on and on. And then they change the rules. They'll even take the property away from you and decide, oh, that goes back to these people. Or you're seeing it every day of the week. It's happening all over Ontario right now. People are speaking out saying, oh, what about the First Nations? If castle law was true, as Premier Danielle Smith's rolling out, and that she had any legal authority or power to enforce that, which not even her sheriffs will enforce that, no Superior Court of Alberta will rule in that favor. So imagine you're an Albertan who believes in Danielle Smith's Bill of Rights. She says she's going to make this all legal, even though all of it's unconstitutional. You take a listed weapon, criminal weapon, in the Criminal Code of Canada, the Canadians can't have that, and you take that in your house because an intruder breaks in, and you shoot them dead, right? And they had a chainsaw, they were going to cut up your kids. And you pop them off, you kill them with that gun. The police come in to investigate. Okay, you shot him with this assault rifle, that's a crime. You also killed him in your house, that's a crime. You're going to get charged. All that's going to happen. And you're going to go, no, I got Alberta's laws. So you're going to hire a lawyer fighting with Danielle Smith's laws. And you might get through the first court proceeding and you win. It only cost you $125,000, right? Oh, and you couldn't work that year, in all kinds of trouble. If you've never been through the legal system in Canada, you don't want to. Anyone will tell you, whether it's divorce or especially criminality, whether you're guilty or innocent, even if you're wrongfully accused, you're going to get fleeced. You're going to lose everything you got, especially if you're innocent. So you go with Danielle Smith's system. You pay $125,000. You fight for 2.5 years. It didn't work. You had to get loans. You had to go to family. Now you got a second mortgage on the house. You're really suffering. Your whole family's suffering. And then the Crown appeals to the Superior Court of Alberta, and they rule against you. So now you turn around and you've forked out another $50,000 from friends, 60, 70, 100,000, who knows? Another 6 to 12 months in that court, which you lose. Well, you have a right to go to the Supreme Court of Canada, which will cost you another $250,000. Now you've lost the entire house. Your wife's left you. The kids are now somewhere else in an apartment. Lost that home you had, right? And you're fighting on Danielle Smith's laws, right? Because you're going to win, right? Alberta Bill of Rights, that trumps, right? No. Does not trump the criminal code. Doesn't trump any federal powers. And they'll seize all your stuff. And there's nothing Danielle Smith can say or financially turn around to try and compensate you, because she doesn't control the financial system. She's paid through the same federal laws. I know. I've researched all of it. I did Alberta Independence. I did it deadly accurate, legally, with all my T's crossed and my I's dotted. I know all this to be true. I've published it for almost nearly a decade now. And there's still these giant amount of grifters going, oh, look, we're getting all these things. We're going to have castle law, even though monopoly of force is the highest law of the land of Canada, as it's always been and was invented here. In New France, Quebec, was invented here. The Americans fought a revolution against that concept. It was a violation of the new ordinances that the 13 colonies had passed. Say, If you've never read Connecticut ordinances, you should. Massachusetts ordinances, you should. This is long before 1776. In fact, you can go back 120 years and you can see what those subjects were already doing, saying, And then after the 7-Year War, UK says, the British Empire says, we love all those laws from the Kingdom of France. King George III, a Germanic-speaking king, couldn't even speak English, not very good at all. He spoke French, Latin, and German. Well, he turned around and said, we're adopting all that good French stuff, because these subjects really got to be controlled. And for Canadians, you've been under these highest laws of the land forever and a day. Your system's never changed. There's no premier who wants to challenge by writing a constitution, which they can legally do, and give these rights to you that go from Section 92 all the way up in some provinces to 152. Mass amounts more in the federal, but you have to write a constitution. Got to do that with the lieutenant governor, which they can't restrict you according to Part 5, Section V, provincial constitutions. But they don't want to do that. But they're going to write you Alberta Bill of Rights that's unconstitutional federally and only hose you, because it won't be Premier Danielle Smith or any premier. They're going to sit back and go, I may have made that unconstitutional law, but we're not going to fund you. We're not going to do it. We're going to leave you to get fleeced. You're going to lose all of that property that was never really yours. As you saw, the Crown just sucked it all out of you dry. They all got rich. You got poor. And in the end, not only did you lose all the property and you're highly in debt, broke, you're also going to now do time. This has always been the story of Canada. It was the story of America up to the Revolution, at least those 10 years. We look at Massachusetts writing the first Constitution, 1763. They wrote that Constitution, and that was fire. That no, people are human beings. People have rights. They're born with natural rights. These ordinances now are going to be a constitutional roadmap, giving the power to the people, and they fought with their lives to get that. I'm sorry, no crown-sworn provincial politician is going to take federal authority away and give it to you. At least not without cementing absolutely in a real constitution formed by the people. That's something the Premier can do, but they don't want to do that. They want to tell you that they have all these powers over your rights, and some of them they're going to give you like king themselves, trust them. But when the shit hits the fan, and I can promise you, all the money Premier gets, all the budget that a province rolls out, remember, it's all in CAD. It's all through the Federal Banking Act, through Federal Finance Act, two legislations, and certainly your Premier has no authority over that. Sure, they get the money and the budget and they control that once it's released from federal hands. But snap of a finger, just like the Emergency Powers Act, when they locked all those Canadians out of their bank accounts, they will lock out a Premier too. And I promise you, even the sheriffs, the Alberta sheriffs, the Danielle Smiths building their little army, that their primary mandate is to protect me, my bodyguards. I'm making my own Secret Service private army, largest in North America, much, much larger the entire U.S. Secret Service for just Danielle Smith and hers. Even with that, they've all been taught the criminal code. They're all oath sworn, and their badges come with absolute pledge of allegiance to that serving an oath sworn to that legacy top down, where you the people are last. Shouldn't say last. Under you are all the first peoples, are under you the lowly third-class subjects, slaves. And then there's the savage people. That's how it works for all law enforcement and absolutely the entire justice system of Canada and all its provinces and territories. Anyone telling you otherwise is lying. If you want otherwise, you need to be American. There, the pyramid's flipped upside down like the Superman logo, hope. It starts down here with the individual. Their power goes out. Even policing starts at the core level. Even the local magistrate starts at the core level, by the community, by the people. Sheriffs are elected, goes out from there. The authority starts with the people in family, and then they come together to make community. That is not the truth of Canada. Canada is a pyramid, completely opposite. You don't elect your police. You certainly don't. It's a lie. You want that kind of system? That's called America. Anyone telling you any other lie, whether it be a provincial, they're just lying to you. They're setting you up. And as fast as your accounts are frozen out, or as fast as ours are too. And I know that provincial premiers and their authorities, which are absolutely municipal, have done just that to every mayor who's tried to do what Danielle Smith says she can do. And she can't. And in fact, it was the premiers who were the first to do exactly what Trudeau did to all of you at the Emergency Powers Act and freezing accounts, is what the premier did to a bunch of mayors and town councillors in Alberta. And it's been done, many examples. I have many precedents. I study these things entirely. I never went into Alberta independence without a deep and constitutional, authentic understanding of what Canada and its provinces really are. Again, if you want something else like America and you want to believe in that, you've got to be America. Because the model you're in, the legal system you're in, is not that. It's the opposite. And everything anyone ever tells you is a lie. And it is you who will hold the bag. What Danielle Smith promotes today in Castle Law and what she guarantees everybody in property rights over firearms made illegal in the criminal code, and you get caught with one of those, or you use one of those to shoot somebody even on your said property, remember, the Lord can giveth and the Lord can taketh away. When I say that, sure, Americans will tell you, well, that's God. Yeah, that's true in America, but not in Canada. And that was your first mistake. When they say the Lord can giveth and the Lord can taketh away, you can look at Prime Minister, Prime Lord, Lord of the Treasury. At the end of the day, you will own nothing if they say it and they will it, and there isn't a police, a justice, or a military that's going to stand in the way of that. That's their oath. That's what they're sworn to. And if you ever doubt this, there are tons of examples of how far it will go. Nazi Germany, South Africa apartheid, Imperial Japan, March of Death. People think these things aren't real, but 99 times out of 100, when you go that distance, that's what you get. It's called extreme fascism, and it's part and parcel of monarchies. Until you're not a monarchy, you're under that. And you've given divinity to these people in this system, and anyone who's sworn and enrolled in that system who tells you that they're going to change that divine system illegally, make a law or a bill that's going to take that away, and that they're going to tell the police or the justice system appointed and sworn to that evil that they're going to run in their version of the evil, but not rights of yours. But don't worry, this authority of government's going to give you that. They're setting you up for failure. And since I don't see Alberta currency or Quebec currency, you don't have really any sovereignty. You don't control any finance. I know absolutely how it works. I know those crown appointments. I even know how monies make it municipally and provincially. And with a snap of a finger, like they did to lock people out of their accounts, they can lock out any province anytime they want. Any of the provincial legislatures, all MLAs, MNAs, you won't see a dollar. You won't. Again, what's that money in? It's not in Alberta currency. It's in CAD. And if your premier isn't saying they're going to change any of that through force or revolution or constitutionally and get you all to sit down and work out the laws you can do in this crummy system, if they're not doing that, you're not getting anything they're promising you. And anyone in Canada who gets on a pulpit getting 30, 40, 50,000 views because the masses are institutionalized into some kind of retardation that worldwide shows you isn't true. Isn't true for any constitutional monarchy anywhere in any real history outside of full-blown revolution. You want to know who is successful? The 1 out of 1,000? Well, they're the United States. They're just south of you. But remember, elbows up, you don't like that idea. You're gonna do it with Danielle Smith or Francois Legault or some other monkey crown liar who's basically getting paid by the system they say they're going to usurp. Are they playing a game? Are they setting you up for failure? Truth is absolutely. And because Danielle Smith rolled out a tripling of carbon pricing schemes, and just so everybody knows, Alberta is the largest greenhouse gas polluter, far greater than USA and Russia today. You can all look it up. And it's another invite I got from this prestigious tomorrow noon session in New York online that I get to go to. And I know these folks want to talk to me. Talk to me about these great legality lies being perpetrated by regimes. If it's not Mark Carney, it's the premiers all over the place and all kinds of lies. And America's looking at all of us going, wow, you really do got some kind of brew in Nazi Germany, don't you? Like there's lying, or not lying, but there's kind of manipulating the truth, massaging it, and then there's a full-blown absolute lie shared by the media, paid by the media to bamboozle the people. When you're American, you see that, like the Venezuela, the Cuba, and all these other places that are just awful. And now you're seeing your northern neighbor, Canada, do it, regionally and federally, like snap a finger, just pumping it out there like puke. And they're just puking all over the Canadian people, and they're going with their cups trying to collect it and drink it as fast as they can. And then there's grifters all over saying, hey, look at this. And they even sucker a lot of my followers. I look and I say, wow, you all like that video, eh? Complete lies, complete fiction, castle law. You're under monopoly of force. There's never been or ever will be any castle law for any of you. If you want to know who castle law is for, castle law for the Lord. And you know who's defined as Lord? Your MLAs, your MPs, all your provincial cabinet members, your absolutely privy council federally, all ministers of the Prime Minister. And then there's many appointments. Those are all castle law lords who ultimately own all the land. Not you. You're not a lord. And Lord isn't the Lord above, because church is under state, under those lords. That is the truth of Canada and all the provinces and territories forever and a day. And if you ever want to know what isn't that, it's called United States. They had a world revolution. It was almost a world war against that crown system. First time in world history where a peoples rose up and successfully defeated it and enshrined their own system. They did that. Not you, Canada. There's no castle law for subjects. Subjects don't have castles. Lords do. The lords who are enshrined in the pyramid. And you're below that. Indians under the ground. You can see it at the Parliament of Quebec. You used to be able to see it at the Parliament of Canada, but Justin Trudeau hid it from you. He had it all torn down or boxes put around it. He spent 7 years of his role as Prime Minister doing that. So you wouldn't see. Black Queen still sits there. She sits there overlooking the Privy Council, right? She's there. Top of Parliament Hill. She's there. The Black Evil Queen. Oh, and you can see all the black angels, right? Why would you make angels black? Who comes up with that idea? Pretty sadistic, pretty evil. But it was all there, and it's still there in the Parliament of Quebec, and you will learn the truth of King George III and everything that is Canada. It's constitutionally defined, always has been, always will be. It will be nothing like the United States. Any Canadian politician from any level of government telling you otherwise or saying they're going to create some kind of law to usurp it, if it isn't a provincial constitution as laid out in Part 5, Section V, provincial constitutions, going through 92 to 152, again, depending on the province, then you got nothing. You got a liar, a cheat and thief, and worse, someone who's going to destroy your life. Because the crown ends for nobody. They don't answer to subjects. Neither do the police, neither does the military, neither do any justices in this country or lawyers. They will never be for you. They make all their money by liquidating you. Why do you think they're paid so much? Read their oaths of allegiance, oaths of secrecy, oaths of office. You're not there. Read your constitutional acts of Canada. And then next time somebody like Danielle Smith or one of her grifter lunatics that people love so much, who hate America and the 51st state or hate real independence or won't talk about provincial constitutions, these kinds of people, you ask them clearly, what does the Executive Powers Act of said province, year of its inception, what does that say? And doesn't it say everything you're telling me is a lie? Those simple 8 pages outside of Ontario and Quebec, but everybody else, those simple 8 pages. Is it true I'm a subject with absolutely no rights to nothing? And that you, the Premier, under Lieutenant Governor and the authority of Crown, rules the roost? And I mentioned there several times, absolutely as a subject with limits, where the Lord, my master politician, can giveth and take away any rights they wish, as God above. Does that not what it entirely says in a simple 8 pages? An enshrined, fused Executive Powers Act, fused legislative, judicial into an executive. Entirely. And am I not listed there as a subject many times? Limited. Not even really a true free human being, not a free citizen, not a citizen at all. Ask them. And if they can't tell you, oh, what's an Executive Powers Act? Isn't that what creates the province? Isn't that the amendment to the federal constitution that creates this province and grants you your authority under it? Doesn't it? Isn't that where you're defined? In there. And without that, this province doesn't exist. Oh yeah. They can't answer any of those things, right? Oh no, nothing to see here. Shut up, hate America. Elbows up, America bad. We're good. We're good. Under a demonic, diseased, evil, anti-humanism system. That's my video. If people haven't figured out, you got to share this video. You got to start smashing these grifters, especially the phony baloney conservatives. People even sharing the 51st State page, and I never liked that guy. Because you're always one side. Oh, one side of the crown's good, but the other's bad. Right there, that's a trigger for me. Because I know them all to be one thing. And it's defined, it's legislated that way. Otherwise, I wouldn't be invited by the top academic Republicans and Democrats in the holy shrine of presidential debates, the National Constitution Center, tomorrow at noon, to discuss said things. And I've already promised some people that I would look into setting up a delegation that I've kind of neglected, and that was supposed to be established here by Christmas. And I think people are going to be having a good, strong talking with me tomorrow from the United States about what I'm planning to do, and am I going to start doing these things to really get at least a Canadian academia and really start targeting the public, especially in places that are so enshrined with China, and they don't even know it. That's my video. God bless everybody. Share. Deadly accurate, truthful, 100% credible and verifiable. Be the change. Get it out there. Tell as many as you can. It's worth the time. People run me down. Get to the point. Blah, blah, blah. In Canada, I'm sorry, and it's not friends and followers. Those have been following me a long time. But when it comes to general Canadians, they're children on all these topics. You're dealing with a child. And like I told my friend Carla tonight, everybody, when Americans come on the 51st State page, like we've got about, I think, a little over 250 Americans who've joined our page. For every about 500 Canadians that come along, we get trickles of a handful of Americans. You know what's really funny? They easily answer the questions asked. They're respectful. They provide their contact information. No problem. How can I help? They're already at that adult level on all these things. And it really shocks them to see the comments. And the reason why I give tremendous detail and I break it down is because you have to with Canadians. Or you get 50 million questions, 50 different directions, things that weren't said, people are running down the rabbit hole already. I go into tremendous detail because you have to, because it really is talking to children. And I hate to say that. Canadians are adult in so many capacities, except for where it really counts, in civics and in political science. They are absolutely children, low-level 4-year-old children. That's from a grand amount of institutionalization beyond all measure. Beyond all measure. If you want to know this kind of institutionalization, go look at history, Imperial Japan, go look at Nazi Germany, go look at communist states, go look at military dictatorship states, and see what people believe, what they think. This is befallen Canadians in large mass majority. God bless everybody. That's my video. Share. Get it out there. Bye now.